This is Greg Arabian. I'm Judge Advocate for Post 41, Watertown, Massachusetts, the Corporal Paul S. Masubian Post. And I'm interviewing today for the purposes of the Veterans History Project, the oral history of some of the veterans of our post. Today we're going to interview Richard Madanjian, who was born 2002. And I have Richard Madanjian with us. And Richard, do we have your permission to videotape this interview?
You certainly do, yeah.
Okay. And the interview consists of some of your outstanding remembrances of the war. What is your full name, Richard?
Richard Peter Madanjian.
Okay. And are you married?
Yes, I'm married.
And how many children do you
have? I have
now?
3 children, and I also have 7 grandchildren.
During the war, were you married?
No, I was not married.
And were you single all through the war?
Yes, I was, yeah.
And where do you live now?
I live in Belmont, Massachusetts.
And during the war, where were you drafted, or did you volunteer?
I volunteered.
You volunteered for the service?
I did.
What branch?
The Navy.
The Navy.
Yeah.
When and from where did you volunteer? Where were you living at the time?
I was living in Newton Upper Falls, Massachusetts.
And how did your family feel about you volunteering?
Well, my mother didn't care too much for the idea. My father didn't either, but he was kind of proud of me.
Why did you volunteer?
Well, we were at war. I thought that I would sooner or later be into the service. One way I'd perhaps be drafted. So I'd rather be in the Navy, so I joined the Navy.
Did you know how to swim?
Yes, I could swim, yeah.
Okay. So, and when was this?
That was in about May of 1942.
So this was about 6 months after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Did Pearl Harbor have anything to do with your volunteering?
Oh, yeah, sure.
It did?
Oh, yeah. In fact, when I went in, the regular Navy fellas, they used to call us, they tease us, call us Pearl Harbor Avengers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But, okay. Let me ask you, why did it take you 6 months to volunteer?
Well, I had mixed feelings about going in. I know how my mother felt about it. That was the primary reason. Mm-hmm. And I knew, there again, I knew that I'd be drafted anyway, sooner or later.
Okay.
So I said I want to choose my branch of service. I worked as an electrician.
For independently?
No, I worked. I worked for Sherman Paper Products as a maintenance electrician and installation, and then I worked on the Boston Naval Shipyard prior to going into the service.
And did you have any ratings to electrician?
Not till after I got out of the service.
Okay. Did the service help you become a licensed electrician?
No, it had nothing to do with it.
Okay. Did the service train you for any of the work that you did in?
No, because I was rated before I went in, because I had worked as an electrician. I had been through school, after electrical course, and before that I'd taken some courses in Boston at universities. There are these extension courses and what have you for electricity and
This
things.
is before you volunteered?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Where did you volunteer?
Oh, in Boston, the post office building is where I signed up.
Okay. And did you receive any basic training?
Oh yes, I went to Newport Naval Training Station, Newport, Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of training did you receive, basic training?
Basic training was really very fast. They didn't waste any time. They taught us the basics of Navy, protocol, who to salute, who not to salute, tying knots, going out in a rowboat, things of that nature, things that the Navy doesn't even do anymore.
Did they teach you how to swim?
No, they didn't teach me how to swim.
Okay. Did you ever have any fears about your ship being sunk?
No, I never had any fears about it.
No?
No.
Did they give you training on what would happen if your ship were torpedoed?
Well, no, I just...
Never thought about it?
Yeah, I never gave it much thought. I could swim, and I thought I was all right. And we had those little rubber things. I don't know what good they'll do you, these little rubber things that went around your waist.
Yeah, all right. And how long did your basic training last?
Actually, I was in 5 weeks of basic training, and while I was in training, I was already built in, I didn't know it at the time, but it was being built. It hadn't finished yet. So I was already assigned to the USS Glennon.
USS
Glennon.
Glennon? That was a destroyer.
Destroyer, yes. DD 620.
Is that what they call a tin can?
That's what they call a tin can, yeah.
Okay. And you were assigned to the Glennon before you received your training?
Right. No, while I was in training.
While you were in training. Okay. What did you when you were in training? What kind of food did they give you? Was the food adequate?
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, it was good. It was all
What
right.
did they give you, like?
Gee, I can't remember.
Did it have steak?
50
like
years.
Hamburgers?
Oh, 50 years ago. I don't remember really.
Okay.
But, no, it was adequate. No, they were good. They were
Okay.
good to us.
Okay. And did you keep in touch with your family?
Oh yes, yeah.
Did you live in the barracks, or did you go back and forth from home?
Oh no, we lived in barracks at the Newport. We just stayed there. That was it. We were actually confined. We couldn't leave the place.
Okay. But you were in touch with your parents on a regular basis?
Well, whenever we could get to a phone or something like that, yeah.
Okay. Did you have any problems with telephones?
Oh yes, there was always problems with telephones. There was more people than telephones.
Okay. So did you feel, you say they called you the Avengers, the Pearl Harbor Avengers. Did you have a feeling of revenge against the Japanese?
No,
what they
no,
did
no,
at Pearl
no,
Harbor?
no. Well, not really. No. In fact, I just went in and I figured I never gave it too much thought about them. I never really gave it that much thought. I knew that we were at war and I wanted to go in the Navy. That's all.
Right. So you wanted to go into the Navy, but what did you feel about the war?
Well, I figured that we have to do something about it, and that's what I thought I'd do. But I wanted to do mine in the Navy, not in the Army.
Right. But when you say we had to do something about it, were you afraid that something would happen if you didn't go into the war and many others didn't go in?
Oh yes, yeah. I would fear we would be defeated, you know, because of what would happen at Pearl Harbor, and prior to that, before I went in, the Japanese were raising cane out in the Pacific. They were taking one island after another, and Philippines, and everything was in their favor. And I thought I'd be out there in no time. But
did you have a preference to go to the Atlantic or Pacific theater?
I had no preference. I had no say in the matter.
Was most of your service in the Atlantic or Pacific theater?
Most of my service was in the Atlantic.
The Atlantic.
Yeah.
Now you say you're on a destroyer on the USS Glennon.
Right.
That has a Navy designation, does it?
Well, the call number is DD 620.
DD 620. What does DD stand for?
It's a symbol for destroyer.
Okay. And what did you you attended electronics. You attended the duties. What were your duties on?
Well, primarily on the destroyer, I used to run the generators, you know, in the engine rooms to supply electricity to the thing, to the ship, and also we took care of whatever had to be taken care of, electrical, such as the gyro compass, although we had a man that specialized in that, and you know, searchlights and anything electrical in the ship was our responsibility.
Mm-hmm. How did you like the engine room?
It was all right, yeah, I just got used to it.
Hot, cold?
No, it wasn't too bad. It was hot, but it wasn't too bad.
No. How close to the bottom of the ship was the engine room?
The engine room was right down where the bilges are, and then you had a platform above that where most of your equipment is, like your generator and your turbines for you know, operating turbines that the machinist mates used to operate that.
Okay. So you didn't feel as if you were confined in a lonely part of the ship?
No, it didn't bother me at all. I never gave it too much because I think myself that when you have other people with you, you know, that we're all in the same boat, you might say, and you just feel like we're all together. That's all. And
how many electricians were on the ship?
On the destroyer, I think we had, let's say, maybe about 10 to 12. I don't remember really.
Mm-hmm. And were you? How did you rank amongst the 10 or 12 electricians? Did you work under somebody?
Oh, we had a chief chief electrician's mate, yes. And before, above him was the engineering officer.
I see. So it came down from the engineering officer
to the electrician's,
to the chief electrician's mate,
and then to the petty officers. And I was a third-class petty officer at the time, but they had first class and second class, and then under me were strikers. They call strikers.
Okay, but they're all electricians.
Right. They're trained. Some were electricians. Some were trained to be electricians.
All right. And how did you get along together?
We got along very well.
You knew what your responsibilities were?
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
And you had no, did you have any fights or arguments about who should do what?
Oh no, we had our orders and we did it, and the only thing I can say is we did have some people come in that were in the Navy during in the 30s, that were in the reserves, and a lot of them came in for a short period of time to help train us with the equipment and all that, and they did a good job training us, and they went about their, after a while, they went about their business, and we just stayed on the ship.
So did you have those experienced in, you say in the 30s, these late World War I veterans that helped you?
Some were, and some were just in the peacetime Navy. There was about.
So you had World War I veterans?
Yeah, we had a few World War I veterans, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in those days, did the destroyer burn coal or oil?
And during World War I don't know. I think it was coal and oil.
How about your destroyer?
Oh, no, there was all strictly oil, yeah.
All oil. Okay. Was it a fast ship?
Yeah, we did pretty well. We could get on the way. I guess, I don't know what the actually top speed, but I think they did when they could give it the business, the steam, they could get over 30 knots for a short period.
30 knots.
Over a short period of time.
That's about 35 to 40 miles an hour?
Yeah, after a short period of time. In fact, they did it a couple of times during our shakedown cruise, but we never really operated at that rate of speed.
How old was the USS Glennon?
Brand new, built in.
It was a brand new ship?
Yeah, brand new ship. Yeah.
Very good. Now, with regard to your fellow electricians, did you meet any of them after the war?
Yes, we have. Yes, and we had a few reunions after the war.
You did?
Yeah.
When was the last reunion?
Oh, gee, about 10 years ago, I guess.
Oh, about 1990?
About that time, yeah.
And who were some of these electricians, and where did they come from, if you know?
Well, we had one fellow by the name of Simon Bush. He was a Cherokee Indian. He was a fire control man. He came from Oklahoma. And we had another fellow by the name of Bert Levy from South Carolina. We had some from New York. They're from all over the country,
Did
California.
you have your reunion on the east or west coast?
Let me see. The first reunion we had was, I can't think of where it was now. I think it was out Ohio.
Ohio.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ohio. Yeah.
So how did you feel when you had that reunion?
Well, it was great. I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed seeing them. Of course, at first you didn't recognize so many people. That was how many years after the war, you know. And then after they told you who they were, then you would know who they were. You know,
Okay.
recognize them.
Did you attend any of the weddings of your buddies?
No.
Okay. Did you make any friends on the ship other than the fellow electricians?
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Like who were your major?
Well, most
outside of electricians.
No, most of our friends were in our own division, you know. But we did. It was a small ship, and we knew practically everybody. And yeah, and we mostly the people in the engineering department, like that meant electricians, water tenders, and machinist mates. They all were bunked in mostly in the same area.
How many people did you have on the destroyer? Any idea?
Oh, I would say in that particular destroyer, I think it was somewhere, geez, hard to say, maybe 200, 225.
So all of you got along, and all of you
As far as
knew everybody else?
I did. I got along anyway. I don't know.
Okay.
I was too lazy to fight. And
Okay. Do you know anybody on the Glennon who was either killed or wounded during the war?
Well, none were killed while I was on duty. But after that, when the Glennon was sunk in Normandy, I had been transferred off by that time. There was about maybe 14, 15 guys got killed.
Okay, so you say the Glennon was sunk.
Yeah.
Was it torpedoed?
They hit a mine, talking to some of the survivors afterwards, they hit a mine and then the shore batteries finished it off.
The German shore batteries?
Yeah, right.
What were they trying to do?
They were supporting the troops that were landing on D-Day.
They were supporting the landing craft?
Yeah, landing troops. You know, they're shelling the beaches and, you know, covering the GIs who were going ashore.
Do you know anything further about the circumstances of the sinking of the Glennon?
No, just what I was told. That,
was it in deep water?
No, it wasn't in deep water. No, it was in fact, they tried to get the ship out of there, but they were stuck in the tail end of the fan tail, went down in the mud, and they just were stuck there.
Okay. So you say you were transferred from the Glennon to
Yeah,
the
right.
ship?
Yeah.
Where were you transferred to?
I was transferred to a school in Syracuse, New York, to learn about the propulsion of a ship they had put out, as called destroyer escort. And they had, it was the same type of ship basically, but in this particular ship it was electric drive, the electric motors.
Oh, really?
And a synchronous motor and a generator. That was the power of the.
What's the difference between a destroyer and a destroyer escort?
A destroyer escort was
larger ship?
No, it was a smaller ship. A smaller ship. They had less power, I guess, but
less power.
Yeah, they had less power. They were, but they were very maneuverable.
You say it ran on the basis of electric motors? And
You're right. Yeah.
Did it have any? Did it have any need for fuel?
Oh yes, it was the same principle as any other ship, that they steam boilers would operate the turbines. Only in this case, the turbines didn't operate the propellers. You know, it would operate the motor, and the motors would operate the propeller.
So instead of the turbines providing direct mechanical support, they'd provide electrical support that provided the mechanical support?
Right, yeah, that's right.
Was that a better drive, did you think?
Yeah, it was a synchronous motor. It was very maneuverable, very easy to handle.
Okay. And did you learn any more about electricity by doing that than you did before? Yeah,
of course. I learned when I went to school in Syracuse. We had to go through the whole thing about learning about how the propulsion system worked, basically. But the rest of the distribution system was basically the same as it was on a destroyer.
Okay. So did you have, and did you meet a new group of fellows aboard?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Did you have any of your old buddies?
No, none of them. They would see. I was transferred off the ship. I went to school. There was another fellow off the ship that went up to the same school. He was a machinist mate, and I don't know where he went. He just.
Okay. Well, when you say you went to Syracuse, did you go to a Syracuse school?
No, we went to the General Electric plant was making the equipment for the ships.
Okay. Stop that for a minute. Pause it. Okay. All right. So when you were in Syracuse, did you go to the university or?
No. It was a school that was run by the General Electric plant, and their engineers were the instructors.
And were these turbines General Electric turbines?
Yes, they were.
Okay. So how did you feel when the war ended?
Well, it was...
where were you when the war ended?
When the war ended, I was in the Pacific on another ship.
So how did you get from the Atlantic to the Pacific?
Well, the DE I was on was torpedoed.
It was?
Yeah.
Where were you?
I was in the engine room.
Okay.
And
tell us how the torpedo occurred.
Well, we were all set to make a depth charge run on a submarine, but it had already hit we had an aircraft carrier with us, USS Block Island, and it was sinking, and it did sink eventually.
The aircraft carrier?
Yeah, it did, and we went after the submarine, and they threw a fish at us and got us right in the fantail. It was one of those, we found out later, it was one of those acoustical torpedoes that goes for the noise of the propellers, and that's where it hit us, and we lost quite a few men back aft.
How'd you find that out? How'd you find out about the acoustical?
Well, we were told about it afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you were aboard the Glennon,
Yeah.
And then you went aboard the
USS
Block
Bar.
Island.
No, USS Bar. The Block Island was the
USS
aircraft.
Bar.
We were one of the escorts for the Block Island, one of the escorts.
Okay. And you were aboard the Bar when it was in the Atlantic.
Right.
Okay. Now, carry me through from the Atlantic to the Pacific. How long did you serve in the Atlantic?
Well, on the Glennon, I served most of my time on the Glennon back. We did convoy duty back and forth to the Mediterranean and Africa, and we hit most of the ports, and then we went into the Sicilian campaign. We invaded Sicily. We dropped one of our divisions off there, and then when we came back, and then I got transferred off, went to school, and I went on the Bar, and then we, after we were torpedoed, we were towed into Casablanca, and we stayed there for a while, clean up the ship a little bit, then we were towed all the way back to Boston.
Okay.
And
you were, okay, now let me get this straight. You went aboard the Glennon, and you saw quite a bit of service in the Glennon.
Right.
Before it was torpedoed.
Right.
That included service in the Mediterranean and North Africa.
Yeah, right. We were mostly doing escort duty, but we did make the invasion of Sicily. We were instrumental in with that. A lot of destroyers were there. And most
was that helping the troops of General Mark Clark?
I don't know who the general was at that time. I don't know, but it was.
What did you do? What did the ship do in the invasion of Sicily?
Well, we actually we're trying to dodge those Stuka dive bombers mostly.
Really?
And they also we used our 5-inch guns against shore batteries and tanks that were also firing at us. The tanks were even firing at us, and I don't know whether they were Italian or German. I don't even know.
What was your average range that you were firing at each other?
Gee, I don't know. Maybe 4 or 5 miles, off.
So this ship could take a missile and hurl it about 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah, the 5-inch 38. Yeah, they could.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were trying to do the same thing to you.
Yeah, well, we were in pretty close, but one of our ships in our squadron, the USS Maddox, got sunk. We were strafed, and we had some damage done to us, but nobody was killed. But we had a few people that were injured up in the.
You did.
Especially up in the deck,
Okay. So after that, you had the Bar was towed back, was it?
No, well that was the Glennon. It was at Sicily. The Bar was the one I got after I got out of school from Syracuse.
Oh, I see.
That was a DE.
And where did you first board the Bar?
Right in. It was built at Hingham.
Okay.
At the Bethlehem Steel shipyard.
And where did you report?
That's where I reported.
You reported at Hingham?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Well, the ship was under construction.
I see.
And then
This was another new ship?
Another new ship, yeah.
Okay. So you were aboard the Glennon. You did service in the Atlantic.
Right.
And after that, the Glennon got torpedoed?
Well, that was after I was off the ship. I wasn't on.
You got off the ship, then the Glennon got torpedoed
Got hit
while
by
you
a
went
mine.
to Syracuse.
Right.
Okay. And then, after you got through the Syracuse, we reported to Hingham
Right.
or the USS Bar.
Yeah, right.
Is it BARR?
BAR, yeah. DE 576.
Okay. And this was a destroyer escort,
Right.
smaller.
Right. We were escorting, as I said, we were with this group. The primary job was to sink submarines. We had the aircraft carriers, and the planes would go up off the aircraft. It was a small carrier, what they called a jeep carrier or a escort carrier. They weren't the big ones like they had on the Pacific.
Were they faster than a destroyer?
No faster. Just,
faster.
I think we were pretty fast.
More maneuverable?
That I don't really know. I don't think so, because we were very maneuverable.
Okay. So your job, or the job of the DE, was to actually attack any of the submarines?
Oh yeah, we should drop depth charges when we make a contact. I don't know if we ever sunk any submarines or not, but then but I know that there was another DE that was with us, sunk the Block Island and hit us. It was the Elmore. I don't know what the number was, USS Elmore.
Okay. Just boarded the bar at Hingham. Where was your primary duty?
Well, same thing in the engine room, and oh yeah, we went. Yeah, it was in the Atlantic. We went to Bermuda. We picked up our squad while we joined them. Maybe they were already out to sea. We might have been a replacement. I don't even know, but we were out there, and then that's where we were. Actually, it was our first cruise on the DE when we got torpedoed. So,
okay. Now,
but
exactly where did you get torpedoed?
It was off the islands off, what the heck is that called? The Cape Verde Islands.
Cape Verde?
Yeah, Cape Verde Islands.
Off the
well, it's off the coast of Africa in the Atlantic. Yeah.
Okay. So you were still in the Atlantic when you got...
Yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
Okay. How did it feel to be torpedoed?
Not too good.
What did you do?
After I cleaned myself, we did our best. We got whatever pumps we could. Everything after the number 2 engine room was gone.
Right.
And then the water was coming in through the propeller shafts of the number 2 engine room. That's where I was. And we did our best to pump out water and to patch up whatever we could by stuffing rags and stuff in the cracks.
Pause.
And
we're with the U.S. bar.
Yeah.
And you're describing how it was that,
okay. Well,
how you felt about being torpedoed.
Well,
you didn't like it too much.
Well, we were in the engine room, and really, we didn't know what happened, you know, but it didn't take long to realize that we'd been hit. And in the meantime, we had our depth charges all set to go off to drop on the submarines, but they fell off the racks and they blew up anyway. So that was a double whammy. So I was just going from what people on the other ships saw, that we were actually, the rear end of the ship was actually raised out of the water, and but we didn't sink. So we, most of us that were in the engine, we just tried to pump out. We had no communications with the bridge. We were trying to get communications. We had no communication, but we just did our best to, with rags and screwdriver, we'd stuff into the cracks, and we had pumps, submersible pumps, you know, the portable pumps, and we'd pump out the water the best we could, and the ship stayed afloat, and the men up in the deckhands up in the aft end, it had crumbled up. It came up like almost like a, I don't know, quite a way. It's like a sea. It came, yeah. And so what they did,
so they pulled up the aft end so that it wouldn't sink.
They did. They tied, yeah, so it wouldn't fall off. If it fall off, it'd perhaps take the keel and everything off, and it would go down.
And what happened?
Well, we're taken in tow by another ship after the so-called they call them. Most of the people would abandon ship and they went on another DE, but about 30 of us stayed on the ship to keep it going, and we were taken in tow by another DE till a tugboat came out from, it was a Dutch tug, came out and took us in tow and took us into Casablanca. And we went into dry dock there, and they cut off all the jagged end. They welded some plates on there, and we waited for a tugboat to come out from the States, from Norfolk. It was the USS Cherokee, the tugboat was. They took us in tow, and on our way back, we got towed. I forgot how long it took us, because we were only doing about 3 or 4 knots, I think.
So is it fair to say that they did some repairs on the bar while you were in Casablanca, across the sea?
Yeah, all the way. Yeah, to Boston.
To Boston.
We were going to go to Philadelphia, but Philadelphia couldn't take us, so they took us into South Boston.
Were you aboard the Casablanca?
Must have been there about 2, 3, 4 weeks. I don't really remember till we cleaned out all the stuff, you know, that was there, and we lost quite a few men when we got hit.
How many men did you lose?
I think we lost about 15 to 18 men. I don't remember exactly, and a lot were wounded, because when we got over to Casablanca, I went to visit some of them. They were in the hospital there.
We had what did they have, a field hospital there?
No, I don't know. It was just a hospital. I think it might have been there. I don't know if it was
Who was occupying Casablanca at that time?
At that time it was the French. It was a French colony. Morocco was French.
Okay. French Morocco?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that anywhere near Rabat or
Yeah,
Kesh?
yeah.
It was Rabat was the base.
No,
It was the Casablanca was the base.
Casablanca was the place.
I see. And
Because I was there before when we went in on the Glennon, but so I was familiar with the area.
how did you interact with the French government while you were there? Or French
Oh yeah,
national?
we got along okay, yeah.
All right. And during the 4 weeks that you were in Casablanca, other than work, did you have an opportunity to mix in with the local people?
Oh yeah. We went ashore. We went
Did you
on
know
Liberty.
French?
No, but we picked up words. We could carry on a conversation, especially if they were drinking and we were drinking. We could understand each other pretty good.
Okay. Where were some of the places that you went in Casablanca?
Oh, geez, I don't know. Just, regular hangouts, just.
Okay. And were there many Americans there?
Oh, yeah, there's quite a few, and there's quite a few, and there was a little trouble there between the different factions of the French, as I understand, and we were told to just stay out of their politics.
You were able to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, when you went back to Boston,
We were
was it Boston you went back to?
yeah, or South Boston, and
Did
they
they fix up the bar there?
well, they didn't fix it up. They converted the ship from a destroyer escort into what they call an APD, and I don't know what the APD means. I think it means it was a high-speed transport or something like that. I don't know, or all-purpose destroyer, and we went out to the Pacific after the ship, but we carried these demolition teams. And
You went back on the bar?
yeah,
And where did you go there?
we went out to through the canal, and we went out to Hawaii. Then from there we went out to where the hell did we go after that? Oh yeah, we went to a big anchorage out there, called Ulithi. It was in the Western Carolines, not too far from the Philippines. And at that time, there was I think every ship in the Navy was anchored there. It was a big anchorage, and there battleships, cruisers. There was hundreds of ships there, and we knew there was something going on, but we didn't know what. And the scuttlebutt was they're going to go up to invade Formosa, which is now Taiwan.
Yes.
But that didn't materialize. Instead, they went up to Iwo Jima, and then again, as luck would have it, I got transferred off the bar. A transfer came through for a first class. I was a first class electrician mate by that time, and for a first class electrician mate and a first class yeoman to go to a receiving station, which we did. We came back on a merchant ship. It was a United Fruit Line called Trade Winds. We pulled into Oakland, and
When was that?
that was right. I don't know. Early '45, I think it was.
Do you recall the day that you got out of the service?
Yeah.
When
yeah.
was that?
Let me see. I went on. After.
Do you recall how you felt and what it was?
Oh yeah, it was kind of like mixed feelings. It was nice to get out, get away from the regimentation and discipline of the service mostly.
You didn't want to stay in?
No, I didn't. I was asked because I was offered, a fairly good rate if I stayed in. But I just didn't care for that kind of regimentation and discipline and all that sort of stuff.
Where were you when you got discharged?
Well, I came back from the West Coast, and I got discharged out of Boston at the Fargo building on Summer Street.
Okay, so in other words, you came aboard the bar, was it? Or,
No,
or
no.
You said you came aboard the United Fruit Shop.
Yeah, we came back. Then I got shipped back out again, and I went on a PC boat.
What is a PC boat?
Patrol craft, 1082, PC 1082.
Okay.
I was out in the Pacific again before I came back for discharge.
Where did you go?
We went to all Saipan and Tinian when the war ended, and so we had to go down to our primary duty out there on a PC boat. It wasn't much It was kind of a wreck because they'd had duty up in the Aleutians before I got up there, and actually it wasn't in very good shape. But the crew did a good job keeping the thing going, and so we went down to Truck. Truck.
Oh, yes.
There was a big Japanese naval base down there, and we were down there sweeping mines. You know, and
so was this PC boat a minesweeper?
no, it wasn't. We operated with minesweepers.
I see.
Minesweepers were with them, would sweep the mines, and theoretically, when they came up, we were supposed to shoot and sink it. It didn't work out that way. I don't know what I don't know what they did.
Okay. So, describe what a PC boat is. It's not anything like a PT boat.
No, no. They're diesel engines. A couple of diesel engines. They're not too fast, very noisy. But they were primarily made for escorting down there in the islands. They had depth charges and hedgehogs for anti-submarine warfare. And
so you had depth charges?
Yeah, a couple of few depth charges. Yeah, racks. I don't think they had the K guns, but I think they had the racks. And they had the.
Did you have what were your electronic duties there?
Well, I came aboard as a first-class petty officer. And how I got on there, some officer, I think I was over and waiting there for something to happen. And because in the meantime, my ship, the bar, had gone up to Okinawa, then up and then into Japan after the surrender. But we heard about the surrender when we were off of, when the hell was it? When we were down somewhere around patrolling that area. I forgot where it was.
So you were discharged after the Japanese surrendered?
Yeah, yeah. I was discharged in December 20th, 1945.
Okay. And did you, when you got out of the service, did you feel as if you had done your duty, or did you have a good experience? Or how did you feel when you got discharged?
Well, I didn't really feel anything. I was just glad to get the hell out. You know, I didn't feel anything that I was glad to be out of it. I felt bad for, to this day, for some of my friends that I lost on the ships. You know, to this day, I think about it.
You do?
Yeah, to this day.
Is that did you lose friends on all of the ships that you were on?
Well, yeah, but I wasn't on the Glennon when it got sunk, but I knew a lot of you knew the fellas, and then
when the bar got torpedoed.
Yeah, oh yeah, there were a lot of 3 of our guys in my gang. See, I was a first-class petty officer in a bar, and I had 3 of my men got killed.
Where was the bar at the last time you heard about it?
I went down to see it at Brooklyn Navy Yard in, I think it was February or March of 46. It had come back.
46?
Yeah, 46. And most of the crew had gone. There was a few guys on there I knew. And I dropped down to Brooklyn Navy Yard. Had a little trouble talking to the security people that I was an ex-sailor, that I wanted to go and see my old shipmates. But most of the guys, they had a lot of new fellas since then too.
Did you notice that you had any friends aboard the bar that served with you when you went there?
Yeah,
46?
yeah. There was.
They recognized?
Yeah, oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay.
But in the Navy, it's like any other branch of service. It's like anything else, you know, you make friends,
yeah,
and you go about, you know, you go your different way, wherever the heck you're sent, you know, that's...
Right. Now, after you got out of the service, did you take advantage of the GI Bill?
No, not really. I think I was going to take out a loan for a house, you know, GI, but I decided I had the money for a down payment, so I said I didn't want to go through that red tape, you know, and all that. And I did attend some classes in Boston. I wanted to go to college, but at that time my father was not feeling well, so I had to go to work and help out the family.
How did your family cope while you were away? Were you able to correspond with them?
Oh yeah, but they never told me anything. In fact, my parents didn't even know anything about my experience. I didn't tell them anything.
You didn't?
Not a thing till after the war was over.
And when you told them, how did they feel about it?
Well, my father said he suspected it, you know, some of it. But I didn't want to tell him because I knew that whatever I told him, I had to go back out to sea again, and I didn't want them to worry for nothing. I tried to make it as easy as I could for them.
Okay, so you kept your service so pretty much a secret.
Yeah, I didn't tell them
Yeah.
nothing about it. Just.
And when you, while you were in the service, did you visit? Did you have fellows that brought you home?
Oh yeah, yeah. Whenever, well, when I was in, when the ship was in doing convoy duty, when the Glenn was doing convoy duty across, we used to base the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So we'd be back about every 2 months or so, and I'd have a few days off, and I'd go home, and then I'd come back, and, you know, stay a day or two at home, and then go back to Brooklyn, you know, and pick up the ship.
Now, after you got out of the service, did you join any veterans organizations? How did you feel about that?
Well, I didn't join any veterans organization until after I got married, and that was like in the early 50s. I joined the AmVets Post 41 in Watertown, and at that time I was I was busy trying to make a living and pay for a house and all that stuff, so I didn't bother attending any more meetings until
You pretty much wanted to forget your veterans, your military service?
No, not really. It never came up. Actually, I never even thought about it till 1985, when I got a postcard from a fellow in Ohio that served on the Glen. A fellow I didn't even know, and he got a hold of me and said, "We're going to have a reunion. Would be interested." And I was elated. I really wanted. It would be great. So we went out to Ohio, had a reunion out there, and then the next year we had another one.
How many people?
Oh, quite a few, about 50 people.
You did?
Yeah.
And how was it that you joined the Post 41 Masubian Post?
Well, the post, because it was primarily people I knew when I first joined up, and now too. A lot of people I knew. But as I said, that was in maybe 1954 when I first joined. Mm-hmm. And they used to hold their meetings over in Church Street, where the Masonic Hall is now. It's the Pythian Hall, it was called then. Mm-hmm. And then after that I dropped out, and I can say the fellows that were running the organization at that time, they were the officers of the, like, who the heck were they? Lincoln Jaladian and the Sabunjans and
Casey Bajoyan.
Gracie and
So you knew all of these people.
Yeah.
And did you feel a camaraderie?
Oh yeah, I did.
And,
yeah.
Do you think that your service helped you in your later experiences and jobs?
I don't know if it did or not. It could have. I don't know really, because that's something you can't say. But I know that it did give me a thing. Because before I went in the Navy, I don't think I went to New York twice. Once in '39 to the World's Fair, and that's the furthest I ever went away from home. I never went. I went to Old Orchard Beach a couple of times in Maine, and I never really went more than outside of going to New York. I don't think I went more than 150 or 50 miles away from home.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or the military in general?
Oh yeah, surely it did.
For instance, we're now in 2002.
Yeah, right.
We're involved in terrorism and all this stuff. What do you think about the military now?
Well, for a while, I can see they're more sophisticated and better trained than we were. See, first of all, we were all in civilians, and then in a matter of weeks, we were on board a ship. See, and these people are better trained, and they're
mostly volunteer too.
Yeah.
No more draft.
That's right. Yeah.
You weren't drafted, but you volunteered.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that your service and experiences in the service affected your life after the service?
I'm sure it has, but how I can't really say.
Mm-hmm. How soon after the service did you get married?
I got married in 1953, so it was I got December for 8 years.
Do you regret going into the service, or do you think it was a good thing that you went into the service?
I think it's a wonderful thing if you can survive. If you survive it, and people that you only hear about, you know, that you actually had dealt with these people, the you know, the natives of the Pacific Islands and the.
How did you feel about these islands? Did you actually go aboard the islands?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We did some of the islands. We did, yeah, Saipan.
Did you feel that life outside the United States, whether it be in Europe or Casablanca or the islands, did you feel that life in the United States was better than life overseas?
Oh, certainly. I knew that from day one. I knew that.
When you went overseas, did you notice anything that was unusual about their customs?
Well, the only thing that I did notice was when I was over in North Africa, which was in those days most of you know, Morocco and Algiers was all French occupied, but the natives of the island, whether they're Arabs or Moors or Berbers, I don't know what they, but they, you know, they kept to themselves, and we were told to stay away from them as much as possible, except for the merchants when you went into some kind of a store to buy a knick-knack or something like that to send home. So actually we didn't get intermingled with the natives there too much, because they were.
Was that the story, including your Pacific?
Well, Pacific, we had very little to do with the civilians out there. The island people. That's, I never went to any mainland, or where there was any. One thing about the Pacific, I never went any place but islands, and there again, you don't. You just didn't bother with the people. You know,
how was did you enjoy
the climate? It was fine, and the Atlantic, it just took it. You know, whether we had storms at sea and on a destroyer, it gets pretty rough. You know, and just half the times you're underwater, but you know, you just accept it. That's all. You don't think anything of it. You just.
Did you deal with seasickness or anything?
Oh, very rarely. I did get sick once in a while, but it's mostly the first day or two out. Then after that, you get used to it.
Is there anything that you'd like to add to this interview?
No, the only thing is, you know,
Because you realize that this interview is for future generations.
Well, no, the only thing is I am proud of the fact that I did go and serve in the military, and I, you know, now that I look back, it was too bad it happened, but it did happen, and we did go in, and
you felt you had a duty.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And rather than be drafted, you volunteered and you did your duty.
Yeah, and another thing too, I wanted to pay back the government, if I could really, for allowing my parents to come here as immigrants.
Ah, yes.
See, I wanted to do what I could. I felt that I owed the United States something. I just couldn't sit back and do it. So
when did your parents come over?
My father came over in 1907 or 1908, somewhere around there, and my mother, they were married. They were married there, but he left her there, and she came in 1912. They came from one of the province of Kharpet.
In Armenia.
In Armenia, yeah, Turkish Armenia, yeah.
And you felt an obligation to repay the United States.
Yeah, for allowing my parents, even though they didn't have it easy, but at least they didn't have any hassle about religion or other things of that nature, you know.
How did you get into the electrical field? How did you get to be an electrician?
Well, I always liked it. I used to fool around with batteries and things when I was a kid. And I just liked it, and that's what I wanted to be. But I realized that I could have been something else too, I suppose. But, you know, sometimes you take the wrong turn.
Okay. Anything else that you'd like to add to the interview?
No, that's about it. I think myself that I met a nice bunch of fellows from all over the country that served with me. Every now and then you run across somebody who's not so good, but most of them were nice.
But you broaden your horizon.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. No, I'm glad that I had a chance to do what I did. I'm sorry for any casualties that happened, but I feel very bad about that, and I hate to say that I benefited while some of my old friends are not here anymore. That's, you know, it's a sort of mixed feeling about that. But it was a good experience, I thought, and something that But I never thought of it until after I got out of it. 1985 when I heard from this fellow. My wife didn't even know I was in the Navy. She didn't even know anything about it.
You didn't describe your military exploits with your wife?
No, nothing, nobody. And when we got the card from this fellow, a guy by the name of Jack Ackworth, he was a seaman on the ship, and he organized a reunion. And after that, everything. I got all kinds of communications from other people, organizations, the Tin Can Sailors, the Navy Memorial in Washington, and all that, which I've contributed to.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So. Well, then, if that's the case, we're going to conclude this interview with Richard Madanjian of Corporal Paul S. Masubian, Post 41 AmVets, and we want to thank you for the interview, and we hope that the experiences that you've heard provide a measure of inspiration for generations to come. This is Greg Arabian, Judge Advocate and Public Information Officer for Post 41, ending the interview at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.